Guys, I think I got it. Now, for a while now, I've been in the middle of two entirely different worlds when it comes to these Jurassic Park sequels. See, as a kid, I loved all of these movies. It didn't matter if they were bad, if they were mediocre. I thought they were all amazing because, like most rational people, I loved dinosaurs. But I didn't just love dinosaurs, I was obsessed with them, and these movies were all it seemed we had. And most kids who grew up with them probably loved them all too. They were whimsical, wondrous, terrifying, and always had some variety. Or at least that's what I thought. Then it all went so wrong. I think it's pretty much a canon event for every kid who was a fan of this series to have a moment when they finally realize, shit, these movies aren't good. Like, at all. If you were not a member of this community or weren't a kid that grew up with these movies, then you probably have noticed that whatever this franchise pumps out, whether that be games, shows, and of course movies, Jurassic Park fans seem to just eat it up and come back for more. Now, you might think this is obvious, right? I mean, any fandom is automatically gonna love whatever the franchise puts out because they like whatever that made that franchise originally work. So as long as the executives understand the basic framework of what worked, fans will love it, right? No, not at all. This is very far from the case. Throughout my almost decade of being part of this community, you will always, and I mean always, see any project receive more praise than hate, no matter how bad the general audience and critic reactions are. There is only one exception that I can think of off the top of my head, but we'll get to that later. Now, if it isn't clear already, I am a Jurassic Park fan. I mean, it's in the name. But I would not be making this video if I didn't have a more interesting perspective to come at it from. See, I'm also a massive fan of film, and my love for watching movies has grown dramatically in the last years. And this is a really important fact when it comes to this video that you're watching right now. There's been countless videos breaking down why the Jurassic Park sequels do not work and why they fail on a film level, and all of that. Of course, they're all well-made videos, a lot more than this TV equipment ass video anyways, but they are almost always from the perspective of a film enjoyer or analyzer, Jesus Christ. These videos are great at breaking down why the sequels don't work as actual films, especially compared to the original. There's also countless videos defending the Jurassic Park sequels from actual Jurassic Park fans, the type of people who eat up whatever this franchise puts out. I respect both of these groups wholeheartedly. I think they both have very valid reasons for absolutely despising and loving the sequels. However, I'm here to give my middle-of-the-road opinion. By being influenced by both these communities, I have rendered myself completely unbiased, and the only person who, has a correct opinion. There we go. So in this video, we'll be exploring that. Also, subscribe, please. My channel is very dead right now. Let's first take a look at the Jurassic Park sequels as movies, and I really want to cover some of the biggest problems and critiques people have of these movies, and I'll explain my perspective on them. Like I said in the intro, countless people have covered this topic, but my favorite of these is Nerdstalgic's video titled, "Why Is It Impossible to Make Another Good Jurassic Movie?" And something you'll see in all of these video essays is an emphasis on what made the original so special. See, lightning in a bottle doesn't quite describe it. Spielberg's 1993 Jurassic Park is one of the best movies of all time, not for one specific reason though. It is a convergence of countless lucky coincidences, talent, and spectacle all at the same time. The fact that a legendary filmmaker like Spielberg managed to be the one to bring a legendary author's already brilliant idea to the big screen is just one layer that made the making of this film such a special event. That's on top of being an era where visual effects were significantly improved and brought into a new generation, the top-of-the-line casting. It seems like no one else could have played these characters at the time, when in reality, it's largely coincidental that they worked as well as they did. Even just having one of these elements would have made it good, but it's the combination of everything happening at the right place and the right time that really made everything come together. If you couldn't tell already, Jurassic Park is my favorite film of all time, but the premise plays a really big role. So much so that even if it wasn't as perfect as it is, I would still wholeheartedly love it. And I think that is where the problem actually stems. The sequels have completely lost the sauce in terms of what made the premise of the original so good, because they kind of abandon it in a way. I have a question for you. What is the most important piece of the premise of Jurassic Park? If you could single down what exactly made this movie as good as it was, what would that be? A lot of people probably will say to see dinosaurs come back to life, interacting with humans today, both the terror and the wonder. And to that I say, yes, I guess you're right, but strictly speaking on the original, there is a much more specific answer. Personally, I think the premise is far more about bringing dinosaurs back to life to create a theme park zoo, where eventually everything goes wrong one by one as dinosaurs reclaim nature. That statement to me is way more evocative of why this movie works so well, not just bringing back dinosaurs from extinction. Anybody could do that, any filmmaker other than Spielberg, any novelist other than Crichton. It's these guys' talents as filmmakers and writers that allowed for this premise to exist and be as perfect as it is. So working strictly off this premise, it starts to become obvious why the sequels were doomed to fail. Again, Nostalgic put this perfectly into words in his video, so make sure to go check that out after this one. But the ending of Jurassic Park is perfect. Alan, Ellie, Ian, Hammond, and the kids barely escape with their lives and leave the island by helicopter. You finally let out a deep breath because you were clenching to your seat because of the intensity of the last hour. You hear the gorgeous Jurassic Park score kick in as Alan looks at the kids, and then Ellie, and then out the window. And what does he see? A flock of birds. Just regular ass birds. I cannot think of a better way to end a movie. And this scene is a reciprocal of the thesis of the entire movie, a conclusion if you will. Humans were never meant to mess with the extinct. Nature let these animals run their course, and that time ended millions of years ago. And throwing them all in a theme park, no matter how good Hammond's intentions were, is really effed up. It fascinates me that Crichton and Spielberg were this critical about this idea when it inherently seemed like something that could become a reality in the near future. This ending shows exactly why the sequels don't work. Jurassic Park is inherently a one-and-done concept. Dinosaurs had their shot again. Humans realized it was a bad idea. They escaped. That's it. Yeah, there's still dinosaurs left alive technically. They still live on the island, so there is sequel potential there. But the problem is that's the only source of a premise from the original that's left in these sequels. Even bad sequels have a premise that follows suit with the original, and a lot of times filmmakers advance and top the concept of the original, leading to better sequels than the original. But how do you top the concept of the original Jurassic Park? In my opinion, that's impossible because it's a perfect premise that each successive movie can't replicate exactly. You will never feel the same amount of wonder because the wonder was in seeing these creatures on the big screen for the first time. You can't have that first time experience for a second time, right? The shift from a sci-fi fantastical film to a horror movie, watching these dinosaurs terrorize the island, can only be so effective once. So, if this type of premise can never be replicated as well as the original, why make the sequels? I believe that's the main problem that most audiences and critics have with these movies. So does that make it impossible to make a good Jurassic movie? Well, it's complicated. Mostly because I do think there is one Jurassic Park sequel that I consider to be unironically good. But we'll get to that in a second. In general, if there's no way to come up with a better concept for a Jurassic sequel to revolve around, the best thing that the executives at Universal and the filmmakers can do is stop trying to beat the original and just make a great movie. But most people will tell you that there hasn't been a great Jurassic movie after the original to date, and there's 6 of them. So real quick, let's go through all 6 Jurassic sequels and find out which ones actually had a shot of being great, to see what truly is the fault. Is the premise not being as good as the original what's holding these back? Or is it the actual execution that causes them to be less than stellar? Hot take, The Lost World Jurassic Park probably has the weakest premise out of all of these movies, and I'd actually rank it above most of the series. David Koepp and Spielberg decided that the follow-up to the acclaimed 1993 masterpiece was to just have a dinosaur rehabilitation project that gets interfered by a group of mercenaries trying to create a version of Jurassic Park in San Diego? Now, right off the bat, we can probably start to see the problem here. We already know that making a dinosaur theme park is a really bad idea. So whereas the audience could feel really sympathetic to the goals and motivations of John Hammond, he's just an eccentric guy who wants to create some joy. It's impossible to endear yourself to Peter Ludlow because Ludlow is a cartoon villain. You already lost all subtlety and nuance with the premise alone. This goes for all the characters too, they're just dumb versions of the original crew. But even with that being said, I meant it when I said that this is one of the better Jurassic movies, and I find myself rewatching it a lot. I think the vibes are really good, and the characters are kind of fun. This isn't a review of all these movies or anything, but in this case, Spielberg managed to make a decent enough Jurassic sequel even when the basic premise was absolutely not deserving of a movie. Jurassic Park 3, on the other hand, is actually the opposite. I know this one gets trashed a lot for just being a really basic survival story, but compared to what the Lost World tried to set up, I prefer the idea of a rescue mission to be a lot more digestible, and it allows the audience to get a more undivided screen time that focuses more on the tight-knit interactions between characters and plenty more room for dinosaur action. The problem is the everything. Again, I still kind of like this movie. I grew up with the Jurassic Park trilogy, so I'm always going to find a way to be awed by them, even when they're bad. But this movie really dropped the ball, honestly. It's been a while since I've seen it, but every character that isn't named Alan Grant is incredibly annoying or flat out stupid. It's clear that Joe Johnston had a vision for the central dynamic between the family characters, but it's also the part of this movie that feels the most formulaic. I mean, compared to the original Jurassic Park, where there's also a found family relationship, but it's just a small element of that entire film. Whereas here, it feels like they devoted more screen time to it, and yet it's somehow less effective. How is that possible? It feels like this movie didn't have heavy expectations. The premise was very sound, maybe not super exciting, but it seems like it could work, right? But alas, the writing really killed this one. But here is where we throw in a twist. See, you might think that now I'm about to bash Jurassic World and talk about why the premise of this movie sucked or the movie sucked or something like that. But that's where you're wrong, because that's the twist. This movie is pretty good. Now, I know a lot of people think that this is actually where the problem started and things started to go downhill from here, but I actually think Jurassic World is the only one of the 6 sequels that actually understands what it is. Now, this isn't really a masterpiece or anything. I find it difficult to even call it great, but it does have some sauce, okay? So let's break down the premise first. On the surface, it sounds like the weakest one so far. Oh wait, we're back in the park again. But remember what I told you earlier about how I genuinely believe the most integral part of why people were sold on the concept of the original is because it's centered around a theme park of dinosaurs instead of solely relying on dinosaurs and humans coexisting, which is again something any franchise or set of filmmakers could pull off. This movie not only puts us in the theme park setting again, but it sparks a decent amount of life into it by making Jurassic World a fully operational open theme park zoo thing. Honestly, I think that's the real reason why I and a lot of other people just like this one as much as we do. The theme park vibes are immaculate and really uses the set design and CGI to create a really palpable theme park atmosphere. The other thing that really works well about Jurassic World is it has the same tonal shift as the original about halfway through. It goes from adoring the park and its creatures to the terror of the Indominus Rex. And of course, many people have broken down that the I-Rex is just a metaphor for the film industry as a whole, and I think that's all valid. The bottom line is, I think this movie actually tries a lot to set the stage for a more exciting film than the first 2 Jurassic Park sequels ever did try. The movie's not perfect at all, and I especially get the perspective about how it just follows the original story way too closely, but then again, I feel like that's the only reason why it worked. If you can't beat it, copy it. So Jurassic World actually set up an interesting premise, and mostly delivered to make a fun movie. It's not the kind of thing that can be repeated again, though, and it honestly kind of felt like a perfectly natural way to end the series. But as we know, that is not what happened. And this led to what I personally believe are the 3 worst Jurassic movies ever made. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I'm actually pretty sure shit went down the drain way before the elephant in the room. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is the 5th installment in the series, and it follows Claire, Owen, and a bunch of other randos back to Isla Nublar to save the dinosaurs from extinction. Now, I know people like this movie, and I have interacted with these people many times before. We're all entitled to our opinion, right? I'm not going to take anything away from anybody who likes Fallen Kingdom, or for that matter, any of the movies in this franchise. But Fallen Kingdom probably has the worst premises for any movie I've ever seen. Think about it. The entire idea of the original movie, as we have stated many times in this video, is what if dinosaurs came back to life from extinction? And what is happening to the dinosaurs in this fresh new installment? They're going extinct? Are we deadass? Am I the only one who realizes how stupid this is? And that's half this entire movie. It's such a bad idea to the point where I'm genuinely surprised that this got past the boardroom. I'll take it a step further. I think this movie would still be bad even if it was a better made film, as long as its premise is what was attached to it. It makes the entire story so boring to watch. It's like dinosaurs no longer have any control. How am I supposed to feel the tension from this quote-unquote horror movie that people quote it as if the dinosaurs aren't scary? It's like watching the opposite of the original Jurassic Park. It's like Jurassic Park, where we played the scenes in reverse order. It's like Jurassic Park, but it was bad. And it sets up everything so poorly for the next movie too. So yeah, the movie sucks. Everything sucks. And to take it further, I would say this honestly killed any momentum that the future sequels could have had, especially the next one. But I had my hopes, and so did a lot of people, so how were they going to rectify their mistake in the next big installment? Now, for the first 4 sequels, you're going to find defenders and haters alike. But what if there was a Jurassic movie that both the fans and general audiences hated? Thankfully, that exists. I don't think any Jurassic fan will ever forget the initial reactions to Jurassic World Dominion. It was a lightning in a bottle moment, just like the original, but this time, it's like everything went wrong. Like I said with Fallen Kingdom's ending, I don't think it left a lot of room for interpretation about where Dominion was going to go. Dinosaurs had been released within the same world as mankind, and it was inevitable that in the next movie, it would just end with all the dinosaurs being rounded up and sent back to Isla Nublar. Except wait, that's not what happened at all. Thankfully, decided not to go that route, instead went for the stupid option. Dominion actually kind of could have went in a lot of different directions, but it weirdly enough has the strongest premise of the entire Jurassic World trilogy. Humans and dinosaurs are together, sharing the Earth for the first time. I wouldn't call it a novel idea, but at this scale, it seems like a home run. How could you fumble this? Well, as I always say, Colin Trevorrow will find a way. What? Dominion is the definition of that meme where the guy holds up 10 different scripts all for the same movie and asks the executives, which one, and then they just say yes. And obviously that's going to lead to a pretty muddled movie. Now, at the same time, I actually liked Dominion when it came out. I was with the general fans of the franchise because if you didn't know, at the time a lot of audiences came out loving Dominion, a sharp contrast to how even the most diehard fans of the franchise talk about it today. My personal defense was, oh, it's just a silly dinosaur action movie with Chris Pratt riding a motorcycle, just like the first Jurassic World. It might not make you think, but it does make you feel good. Except no, I was very, very wrong. Again, you can like this movie if you want to. Don't be persuaded by others unless you've carefully thought about their opinion and think it's an accurate reflection of yours. But the divided screen time only makes this the most boring installment in the franchise yet. Because yes, while I might hate Fallen Kingdom more simply for its broken setup, I find that movie artificially entertaining. If you look at it from a super surface level, it's perfectly okay. It's a fine enough watch if you view it with an empty brain, basically. Not personally how I like to watch movies, but you get what I'm saying. But Dominion is just incredibly reactionary at every turn. It wants you to feel every artificial emotional beat it sets up, whether that be nostalgia or euphoria or whatever. But all I see is a poorly conceived legacy sequel that doesn't actually know what it wants to be. I can't respect it as a big, fun dinosaur action movie anymore because it doesn't veer into that territory hard enough. And most people will agree. In the only 3 years since this movie hit theaters, no one agrees it's good anymore. The people who enjoyed it at the time slowly realized that fan service and the most basic payoffs in any movie aren't enough because they risk making that film unmemorable. And that's exactly what happened. No one will care about this movie enough to even make fun of it in a few years because it's genuinely that disposable. And this is where the thoughts of Jurassic Park fans and general audience / critics finally align. Both groups finally realized that it might be time to put this franchise to rest, not because the sequels can't beat the original, but because, well, they can't even be good movies on their own, it seems like. But when all hope was lost, we saw something on the horizon.
Movie.
Okay.
Jurassic World Rebirth was announced early 2024, just 18 months before it hit theaters. And there was a lot of reasons why this stirred up a lot of optimism across both the fanbase and even general moviegoers. The biggest piece of evidence that this might be the best sequel since the original was the return of David Koepp to write the script. This was huge because it meant someone who was a vital part of the original film was a major part of this production. In general, a lot of the early leaks and conversation around the film were about how it was going back to basics and how it would follow a tone more similar to the original. They were definitely right about one of those things. There were some pretty good actors signed on, everybody who read the script liked it, and initially they had a little trouble getting a good match for the director, but they ended up settling on Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One, and more notably regarding this movie, Godzilla 2014. It seemed like everything was going well. I made sure to keep my expectations in check because I already felt sore disappointment like this before, but I was also cautiously optimistic. Then, they ruined everything because the movie's still somehow not good. Now, I'm not going to go into why, just because not only have I done it already, but so many other people have, and it's a recent release as well, so there's not really a point. But again, just like Jurassic Park 3, Rebirth has a perfectly effective premise that isn't anything special on the surface, but could have been good with execution. You can't have a generic idea for a movie and then have the movie be generic itself. You just can't. I felt an aura of lifelessness from this movie. It felt tired. It was the first time I ever felt like we truly let this franchise run its course, and it was time to put it down. Even after Dominion, I thought maybe another chance wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but at this point, it's ruining the legacy of the original. Rebirth isn't a terrible movie in my opinion, but it's a pretty mediocre one. I got a ton of comments on my review of this movie of people saying that I was in the minority. I felt like I was physically living in between two worlds. I heard constant excessive hate from the film community calling this the worst movie of the year, and unwarranted praise from the Jurassic Park fans calling this a return to the franchise and all that. Neither of which I felt like I agreed with at all. Why is the reaction like this? Why is it so polar? And more importantly, why are these movies still not good yet? I feel like most Jurassic fans just really wanted this movie to be good, and hence to avoid submitting to disappointment, they came out of it saying, yeah, that movie was perfect, Jurassic World is back. I mean, remember those early reactions from the press screenings? I feel like so many people were begging for something better than Dominion, and when they technically got that, they over-exaggerated how good the actual movie was in their own eyes. Now, I don't just want to talk out of my ass, so to prove my theory, I went to my community on YouTube and asked you guys exactly 2 months after Rebirth had released what your thoughts on the film were. And lo and behold, the most popular answer was people saying that they thought it was just fine. Now, to be fair, this isn't a large majority, but something tells me that the 35% of people who said they loved it a lot haven't really thought about the movie much at all. Even if that wasn't the case and 35% of people did truly love it, this definitely wasn't the reaction when I posted my original review just days after the film came out. There, everybody was talking about how much they loved it, and I was in the minority. I'm not trying to say I was right all along, I'm just trying to show how easily people's reactions shift after the hype of the release is over, and people can sit with their thoughts on how a piece of media affected them. Clearly, those thoughts have shifted, and the same thing happened with Dominion. While I do think that Jurassic fans, while they should enjoy what they truly love, are a bit overreactionary when it comes to the quality of the 6 sequels. But as a member of this community, I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy all of these movies. Maybe except Fallen Kingdom. I actually don't like that one at all. But otherwise, all these movies are entertaining to me, faults and all. I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way as well. More and more people are starting to become more critical of this franchise. I mean, general audiences and critics always have. Just look at the Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd scores. But now with Dominion being a train wreck that was so hard to ignore and Rebirth not exactly fixing things, if Universal tries to pump out another one of these movies again, the reception is likely going to be even worse. Overall, I do think the hate towards the Jurassic Park sequels is a tad bit overdone, to say the least. They're far from the worst Hollywood sequels out there, at least the first 3 in Rebirth, but comparing them to the original is always going to be how people reflect on these films, which is probably why it should have been a one-and-done thing. I have so many fond memories of watching The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 as a kid and just having a hell of a time before I was super critical of what I watched. I kind of miss being that naive, honestly, and if that's how you are now, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You can love all of these movies, and that's totally valid. Unless you're like my friend Bonnie and have Fallen Kingdom ranked above Jurassic Park, dear lord. I've talked a lot about the idea of premises in this video and which movies explored their concepts to the maximum potential. And the reason why I approached this video from that angle is because I wanted to show you firsthand why these sequels will never be as good as the original. The mildly good ones have decent concepts that try to mimic parts of the original without including all of what makes that movie special. These sequels are fine or even good, but those are also the ones that literally can't be better than the original for obvious reasons. And the worst ones try something new but either create a concept that isn't fully explored because the writing sucks, or the concept actively regresses the franchise's narrative. So if the follow-up to Rebirth wants to have any chance at living up to the original, or at least being a great film, then what has to be done? What people have to be involved, and what's the premise to set the stage for a sequel that can knock it out of the park? Well, I plan to cover that in an upcoming video, but for now, that's all the time I have for today. It took forever just to write the script for this one, and I'm already imagining how long the editing process is going to take, so for now, I just want to thank everybody so much for making it to the end of the video. It really means a lot to me, you have no idea. And if you thought it wasn't complete garbage, then help me out with a like, okay? Okay guys, one last thing. I just want to do a quick plug too, actually. As usual, I have a Discord server where we talk about Jurassic World games and movies, and for the first time, I am releasing my letterbox to my audience. I'm not sure if any of you guys have it, but if you're interested in checking it out and following, link will be in the description. Hey, that's all for me. This is a Jurassic Insider signing out.
Shout out to the dinosaurs, shout out all the raptors. Hey, shout out to you, and shout out the whole Rex and Pterosaurus. Hey, cause you